Now, I know my fellow Yankees think this whole concept that Texas could secede is absolutely preposterous, but that's because you guys do not know the culture and the history of Texas. I was first introduced to it in the Marine Corps when I was at infantry school, and was a black older gentleman, was one of the instructors, and he introduced himself as, first of all, I just want to make one thing straight. I'm not an American. I'm a Texan. So that was kind of shock, stuck in my head. And years later, when not years later, I'm sorry, it'd be a couple months later, I went to San Antonio for military police training, and it was a different world. I'd never seen so many state flags anywhere in my life. I think I probably saw more Texas flags than I did American flags. Texas was originally a republic. It's a Republic of Texas. It was its own nation. It was a sovereign nation for 9 years, from 1836 until it negotiated its annexation into the United States in 1845. That said, by 1861, they already seceded again. In fact, it was the case Texas versus White in the United States Supreme Court in 1869, where they arbitrarily basically decided that you have no right to secede as from the United States. Court ruled that it was illegal, and they wrote the Constitution and all its provisions looks to an indestructible union composed of indestructible states. Now here's the important part, and this is what I'm getting at. The court did allow the possibility of divisibility. There are two. One was through consent of the states, and the other was through revolution. Now that consent, that irreconcilable differences, divorce from the country, might even be a possibility, because I think the coastal elites, got the blue over here and the blue over here, hate the middle of the country just as much as the middle of the country hates them. We're definitely different people. We're probably as different today as we were before the last Civil War. You could see the orange and the red. It's almost like a country within itself. It looks like it almost would be like three countries. There's access to waterways, which a country would need. So is it possible? It's possible. They could just go their own way. Realistically, no, though, because even though we have red states and blue states, the reality is most states are a pretty half and half, 50-50 mix. And if we had a civil war, it wouldn't be a war between the states. It would be the most horrible concept we can't even imagine of actual civil war. Now, if this stuff still sounds hokey to you, let's listen to Ulysses S. Grant, who basically won the war against the last time half of it seceded. His remarks about the right of a people to secede is: now the right of revolution is an inherent one. When people are oppressed by their government, it is a natural right that they enjoy to relieve themselves of the oppression. If they are strong enough, either by withdrawal from it or by overthrowing it and substituting a government more acceptable. But any people or part of a people who resort to this remedy stake their lives, their property, and every claim for protection given by citizenship on the issue. Victory, or the conditions imposed by their conqueror, must be the result. So again, this is a serious, serious issue, and we all better know what could happen and the consequences. Is it even feasible for Texas? Well, Texas has and I'm just talking Texas alone, I'm talking if the other 17 or 18 states join them. Texas alone has a $1.6 trillion economy. And if it became its own country, would be in the top 10 strongest economies in the world. They'd be ahead of South Korea. They'd be ahead of Canada. And they'd be roughly about the same size economically as Russia. Big bad Russia that the left is so afraid of, allegedly now that they're no longer communist. Now they don't like them. Now Texas's population at a little over 28 million versus Russians Federation of 145 million means that Texas GDP per capita is actually 5 times that of Russia. So, is that what I want? Absolutely not. In fact, this video is out there so that we can hopefully avoid it. So the best thing we could have is reunification. Second best would be that clean break, that consent on all parties they were talking about. The third would be a war, which is not desirable, but if it was a war like the last one, where it was a war between the states, different uniforms, different size, clear battle lines, that would be at least more desirable than what is probably the most likely and the most horrible we can imagine, a civil war. And that would be a civil war as what you see predicted, Mark 13:12 says, and brother will deliver brother over to death, and the father his child, and the children will rise against parents and have them put to death. So that's a civil war where you don't know what side your neighbor's on and everyone's out to get you. And if you don't think they would do that, look how people were ratting each other out with the COVID thing. But how will we know who's on what side if it's like that? Well, it's fairly easy. We know all the people on the left will be the ones wearing the virtue signaling cloth masks that aren't even medical grade and don't work. So that's how we know who's on the left. And the right would be all the guys with the rifles. Now, I don't want this, and I'm kind of kidding, but I'm telling you guys on the left, you're basically facing the ones on the right would be all the ones with the military training, police training, all the weapons, and basically all the testosterone. On the left, all you have to muster up in your defense would be self-righteousness, indignation, arrogance, and a corrupt press, which in the past has never really done a whole lot to win a war. Am I saying this to bust your stones? No. I'm saying this so that you know that you have as much vested in keeping this from happening, this divide, while you're partying and all happy, to realize that this could actually be the celebration that leads to your doom. So you need to get on board on the plan and what we need to do to reunify and become one nation under God again. First thing we have an election in Georgia. And it's kind of late because I think it's in the January 5th or 6th. I don't know if you can still send money in because guess what? Once again, social media has banned all political ads running up to this election. So donating money, I don't know if that helps. It's kind of disgusting that social media actually thinks has successfully banned political ads right now. But if the Democrats win, they'll have control of not only the executive branch, but the legislative branch as well. And if that happens, we will see them emboldened and radicalized to an extent that has never been seen before in America. And for the right, you'll have a sense of absolute hopelessness, which is very dangerous for the left, and a feeling that our only recourse is revolution, because the left has proven none of the constitutional values that we hold so dear mean anything to them, and none of them are inviolable, and none of them are sacrosanct. So it's very crucial that the Republicans win this election in Georgia. It's also good for you guys politically on the left because if Democrats don't take control of the legislature and destroy the country, the economy is going to bounce back naturally and Joe Biden get all the credit. So you want to look good, basically let Republicans control the Congress and Biden will look a lot better.